God, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for the grace that you continue to bestow upon us. We give you thanks that you fill our cup to overflowing. We give you thanks that sometimes you push us aside so that we can be filled with you instead of with ourselves. We're grateful for the blessings that you continue to pour out on us. So God, this morning we ask that the meditation of my lips and of all of our hearts be pleasing to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
Friends, I have a confession to make this morning. I struggle with asking for help. It's very easy for me to see a project or something that needs to be done, and I can figure out 15 different steps on how to get there, but I have to be the one who does all 15 steps. It doesn't matter if my husband says, okay, so how can I help you accomplish this goal? It doesn't matter if my mom says, okay, I have XYZ to help you with this. Tell me where I can help you in your process. It doesn't matter if my mother-in-law says, I'll take the girls for a little while so that you can get this process done. No, I can do it myself. And I don't need anybody's help. And you know what? It really bothers my husband because he'll ask me, where is this? Or where does that belong? And I will go and get it for him. And he will say, no, just tell me where I can get it. But to me, it's so much easier if I just walk into the bathroom, open up the cabinet, and hand him the medicine that he's looking for. Or if I take the hair bow that the girls left in the living room on the floor and put it back in the bathroom where it belongs. But friends, that's not how this works. I'm sure that as I was talking about the ways that it's easy for me to rely on myself, you were thinking of ways that you do it in your daily life too. Because it is all too common an experience to want to feel secure and self-reliant in the things that we can do by ourselves. Sometimes we feel the pressure from society to do just that. We think of the ways that we put money into our savings accounts. We think of the ways that we invest. We think of life insurance policies. We think of working in a job that we hate because it pays well. We think of doing the dishes and cooking and cleaning and just doing it ourselves because we can do it better than anybody anyways. When things go wrong, we often feel the pressure to fix it by ourselves. In our psalm this morning, the pronoun I is everywhere. Yet, every reference ties to gratitude and trust in God. The overflowing cup of blessings in verse 5 is a beautifully commonly used image. My cup runneth over, for example, in the King James Version. For the psalmist, this overflowing cup only comes as part of a life that relies fully on God. The overflowing cup only comes when we fully rely on God. When we rely on God for provision, when we rely on God for rest, when we rely on God for restoration of our souls, when we rely on God for guidance in how to live and protection from evil. The only way for us to have an overflowing cup is to rely on The psalm does not portray a person who is blessed beyond measure as a result or reward of self-sufficiency. The psalm tells us about someone who is blessed beyond measure because they rely on God. And friends, I will be the first person to tell you that this is not an easy task, even for the most righteous Christian. And I am not the most righteous Christian, but I will tell you that it is very difficult for me to rely on anybody but myself some days, and that includes God. So take that as you will, as I am preaching the rest of this sermon. This morning, in our children's message, I used a cup and water to illustrate the idea that we fill our cups with things that help us feel secure. We fill our cups with love from our friends, with hugs from our children, with vacation, with coffee, with so on and so forth, and all of these things that help us to feel secure. And then Jesus comes along with a jug of blessings. And he tries to pour the blessings into our cups. But because it's already full, with all of the ways that we try to find security for ourselves, it's hard to receive the blessing. Maybe this morning's children's moment was not the best example of that because God overfills us even when we try to fill ourselves. Jewish tradition says that this psalm was written while David was on the run from King Saul. The tradition says that when David was near death in the dry Judean wilderness, he was miraculously saved by God, who nourished him with a taste of the world to come. It is recited on the days of rest to express trust in God and gratitude for all of our nourishment. While this psalm is popular in the Christian tradition, it is often associated with dying and death as a funeral passage or something recited in the last moments of life. What would it look like not to save this psalm for the end of life, but instead look to it now as a regular prayer of meditation to form us as people of trust and gratitude, rather than people of self-reliance and anxiety? Friends, this psalm might say I in 8 different places, but it truly is a psalm that reminds us of what it's like to believe and rely and trust in God fully. And when we are willing to do that, when we are willing to trust and believe and rely on God, we can be filled to overflowing every time. Even in the moments when we feel the emptiest. If we are willing to trust in God and the plans and the ways that God is working with and for us, we can be filled to overflowing. How do we encourage each other? How do we hold each other accountable to the trust and the possibilities that are rooted in God? I want you to think about an area of your life where you are trying to do everything alone, where you haven't even thought about turning it over to God. How can you allow God into that aspect of your life? Sometimes allowing God in means allowing others to help as agents of God's love. You may have heard of a popular app called TikTok. Recently, I was mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, and there's all kinds of things on that app, but this one, this morning, is something that I want to share with you, and it might mess with your sensibility a little bit, but here we go. Because it stuck with me, and I think that it applies here in this moment. The TikToker, the person who was making the video that I watched, said, maybe good things aren't happening to you because you are the good thing happening to someone else. Right? Maybe good things aren't happening to you because you are the good thing happening to someone else. Friends, we don't live in a vacuum. We were never meant to be self-reliant. We are not meant to do things alone. It's all over the scriptures. One of the first things that God does for Adam is make him a companion. Because we are meant to share the load. Friends, this week I want to encourage you to think about what does it mean to give up some of our self-reliance. What does it mean to let God in to fill us to overflowing? And it might be as simple as when somebody says, "Can I help you?" Instead of saying, "No, I got this," you can say, "Yes, and here's how." Because sometimes God works with us through other people. And when we say no to others, we are actually saying no to God. And I know that that is not what we want to be doing. So friends, this week I encourage you to live into the community, to live into the grace that is given to you by God, so that your cup may be overflowing as well. We are entering into the hardest week of Lent. As we move into Holy Week, we're going to feel some of the things that Jesus felt. We're going to be in the moments with Jesus, and these are the hardest moments. So I invite you to turn over the burden, to turn over the trust, to turn over all that you are to God, that you may be emptied and filled again to overflowing. May it be so. Amen.